Welcome back to Castellone Studios. I'm here as always with Madi and Power of the Mind, brought to you by Granite Mountain Behavioral Healthcare. How's it going, Madi?
It's going great. How are you?
Good. I get to talk about my favorite subject, narcissists.
Yes.
They are a whole different breed, aren't they?
Yes, definitely a whole different animal.
And it's funny because I think people throw that word around. You know, it's like, oh, he's cranky, he's a narcissist, or he's so he must be a narcissist. What is a narcissist?
So a narcissist is somebody who has a grandiose sense of self-importance. Like they think they're overly important, right? Like they're hot stuff.
Right.
They want to be like the person that walks in the room late and grabs everybody's attention just to suck you in.
So they plan that.
They plan that.
Mm.
The narcissists are very smart. They have a lack of empathy. They have envy of others or believe that others are envious of them constantly. They're arrogant. They usually have an attitude.
Checking so many boxes that
right?
People I know. I'm like,
they have a need for excessive admiration, a sense of entitlement, and a belief that they are special and unique and can only be understood or be associated with people who are high status people.
So do they kind of feel like they're untouchable and able to get away with pretty much anything they want to get away with? Is that kind of their...
Absolutely. They think they have no accountability because they don't think they did anything wrong.
So that's what I want to know. Like, I know when I'm being mean, like, and sometimes I be mean on purpose because it's like, somebody's upset me, so I'm going to be mean to them. Do narcissists understand their behavior and that they are the way they are? Or is it just, like, how do you become a narcissist? Are you born a narcissist? Like, what happens?
So a sociopath is born with that. However, a narcissist is made.
It's like learned behavior.
It's learned behavior. It's adapted behavior. It's trauma behavior that has adapted from either having to survive, parents who were overly excessive involved, or parents who were excessively withdrawn, right?
Okay.
You can't win.
Right.
But, the thing that I would use to describe a narcissist that would make it sure that they are is the frequent gaslighting. Have you ever been in a situation where you've been gaslighted before?
So I didn't know what that was for a long time, but I've kind of heard, that phrase is thrown around a lot. Oh, he's gaslighting me. So what is like the technical term for that?
So gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse where the narcissist will manipulate the victim into questioning their own reality, making them feel confused or crazy. Narcissists are also known for their sense of entitlement, where they believe they deserve special treatment and will exploit others to achieve their desires. It's sad.
It's super sad because I've been in situations. I have one person in particular that kind of hits like everything that you're talking about. I've known a few in my life, but the one in particular, it's, when I do better to communicate with him via text because I can control the situation better, or sometimes even over the phone, but in person, the charming factor is kicked up 1,000%. And you walk away from the conversation going, oh my God, how was I so wrong about this? And I totally thought we should be doing it this way, but gosh, I'm so stupid. I feel so bad. And it's tricky. They're so tricky, and they can make people around them just believe they're the nicest, greatest people. How do you find, so I got to imagine there's people who get in relationships with narcissists. Are they able to, because I see them kind of in disguise, how well can they mask that narcissism?
100% they can mask it. They can mask it so much. They can come off as highly charming, manipulative, though, especially in romantic relationships. They often start, right, by idolizing their partner. They'll make them feel super special, right? Only to later devalue them when they no longer serve that person's needs. Over time, partners of narcissistics may experience emotional trauma, right? Feelings of inadequacy and confusion due to the constant manipulation and mind games. It can be really confusing.
Oh my gosh.
And then especially in family dynamics, children of narcissists often struggle with low self-esteem, codependency, and emotional neglect. Narcissistic partners might alternate between excessively praising or harshly criticizing their children, creating a toxic environment of unpredictability. That's where the narcissism is formed, in the unpredictability. Of course, you know the roles, the family roles. There's golden child and scapegoat. And they create that where others have to play this role to confide with them.
Oh my gosh, that makes so much, because my dad, I don't think my dad is a narcissist. Dad, if you're listening, he was very controlling. And I think, back in the day, he's just a very controlling person. And I was the golden child. And it was, down to using me as that pawn with my mother. And then I got a 99% on this test. Can you get 100? And of course it was like, yep, because that was,
what your dad wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to do it.
Crazy.
Crazy. And some of that could be just dad encouraging you to be better.
Mm-hmm.
It's the matter of the extent of where did you feel gaslit? Did you feel like your reality wasn't real, that, your dad had a sense of entitlement maybe, or did,
Yeah. And I think my dad was less narcissist and more just controlling.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely the man of the house, the rules of the house. And my mom conformed to that very well. She loved being, I don't know if she loved it or if she just adapted to it of, I'm basically a second-class citizen in the home. And what's funny to me is my parents divorced when I was probably 6 or 7. And I remember viewing my mom as so weak around my dad, and you need to stand up and you need to do this. But when you're controlled from the moment, and so I don't know if controlling and narcissism go kind of hand in hand, or if you can be super controlling and not be a narcissist, because I believe my dad has empathy, which I think is kind of a deciding factor there.
Absolutely. That's perhaps one of the most damaging traits of narcissism is the lack of empathy, right? Which leads them to view relationships as purely like a transaction.
Mm-hmm.
What can I get?
Wow.
It actually prevents them from forming genuine emotional connections. So like your dad, right? If he lacked empathy, if you felt like he was constitutionally incapable of being honest with himself, if you feel like he only wanted you for a certain time where you could please him, that's narcissism.
Mostly to be used against my mom.
Absolutely. It's scary. It's sad. And there's a huge link between narcissism and trauma.
So, and I wonder, like the one individual I have in mind, I watch the games that he plays, and when people are no longer useful to him, it's as if you don't exist. Mm-hmm. But other people don't see it. But they also, this particular person creates a world where he's in charge of everything and he's in control of everything. And I think the people around him believe he's in control of everything, and that, it's like our roles are reversed, when it's like our partnership is because I allow the partnership, but I believe he lets everyone, it perceives, because he just, the way he presents himself and the way he walks around, it's complete ownership. Mm-hmm. Where I walk around like, if you know, you know, and if you don't know,
you don't.
You don't. And it's no big deal. It's like, yes, I do this, or I'm part of this, or I, run whatever, but I don't walk around with, head this or in charge of that. It's just, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
But it's not important to me to have that. I don't even post on my social media. It's like, you know. But I watch people who those titles and things like that are so important to them. I don't care what you call me. It's join my gym, sign my paycheck. I don't care what my title is. But I feel narcissists need that validation, and that, no one is above me.
The constant need to be needed is one of their downfalls. There's a huge link between trauma and narcissism, right? They develop these behaviors as like a defense mechanism to cope. They have childhood trauma, right? Where it then ties into the attachment theory, where individuals with narcissistic traits have experienced inconsistency. Going back to the inconsistency. And so they almost have to protect themselves by
Mhm.
inflating their self-worth to others because they don't feel that.
So they didn't have that emotional connection with their parents. And so they've kind of hardened themselves to the world.
Absolutely, as a means to cope,
Mhm.
you know?
But what about the other way? So, because you said, like, if you have overindulgent parents, but I guess that would be the stroking of the ego.
Exactly.
Okay. As I say it out loud, I'm like,
It makes
mm-hmm.
sense. You know, and another thing you mentioned is like you don't post on social media, right? Well, narcissists do. They love it.
They love it, right? And it's like, look at me, look at me. And how many times do you see a social media post and you watch this couple who are like, they're glamorous and they go on all these trips and they have all these expensive things. And then you find out they've been frauds this whole time. Their marriage is falling apart. They are selling their stuff because they can't afford it because they've, done whatever. But that's kind of a narcissistic trait, right? Kind of showboating.
Absolutely. You're getting it. That's
Yep.
exactly right. So, how do you deal with a narcissist, right?
How? Please tell me.
So, there's a thing called the gray rock model, where one becomes emotionally unresponsive to a narcissist to reduce the impact of behaviors. So, what is that, right? It's like setting boundaries, which is a crucial step. It's creating these boundaries where you're not going to allow them to invade your sanity. It's not giving them that power. And it will set a narcissistic person off if you don't give them power.
So this is my concern. Like with what I'm going through is I'm dealing with a narcissist who I do not want to be in my space anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I've laid out the ground rules of this is when you are to no longer be in my space and I have to do it legally. And it was definitely the parameters of do not speak to me when you are in my presence. We will not communicate face to face any longer. My fear is when you back somebody like this into a corner, you have to prepare for so many scenarios because I'm seeing it just on a small scale. Imagine being married to somebody like that. But knowing I have to be 10 steps ahead of this person all the time. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, they're 10 steps ahead of people all the time.
Yes.
And what I think why I've put up with the situation for so long is that when you back them into a corner, you're scared of what's going to happen.
Oh, it's just like the unpredictability that they had from childhood, right?
Yep.
They create that same trauma onto their victims of
Yep.
creating that unpredictability of how they're going to react when they're not satisfied with something that you're saying or doing.
Right.
It creates the same scenario that happened to them in childhood with their victims.
Would you think like cult leaders are narcissists?
Yes.
Okay. Because when I look at this particular person, the people that gravitate to him, they treat him almost like a demigod. Like this is the person that is like the end all be all, and we would follow him into the fire.
Mm-hmm. Crazy. And a narcissist can fool. They can
Yeah.
fool you. They're very charming.
But it's funny because I notice a lot of their relationships, when it ends terribly and it's never rekindled.
Absolutely. And in some cases, going on a no contract with the person, no contact, is necessary, especially in abusive situations. For listeners who are co-parenting with a narcissist,
Oh my gosh.
I would recommend not handing the other co-parent your power. Reminding yourself that your mental sanity is more important than the reaction that you're going to get from them. It's difficult. It's very difficult.
Man, and I just start thinking about somebody who's in a marriage with somebody that is a narcissist and has been gaslit, and you start thinking you're crazy because everyone around you probably thinks he's the most or she. But I always think of narcissists as males predominantly, but I'm sure there's female narcissists as well. But they create this world for you where you're like, I must be nuts because everyone thinks he's great. Everyone loves him because they see that side of him. And I remember reading something, or maybe Greg had mentioned it, but they want that trophy wife or that trophy, like, look what I have, down to their partner. And then we see like partners, they have children and they change and then you're no longer useful to them, right? Is that kind of what you see where?
When you don't serve your purpose anymore, they can just drop you.
With no
feelings, no emotions connected, no empathy, none. So what's the impact? What does it have on your mental health, right? What does narcissism have on your mental health? It's terrible. Let's start there. It can really mess with you. Survivors of narcissistic relationships suffer from anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Narcissistic abuse syndrome is a term used to describe the emotional and psychological damage caused by prolonged exposure to narcissistic manipulation. Victims also experience cognitive dissociance. It's a state of mental conflict where they struggle to rekindle their partner's charming, loving behavior with the abuse, manipulative actions. So what they will do is they'll separate. They have to keep themselves sane.
So what I'm hearing is that save yourself from a narcissist, but I'm not hearing that a narcissist can save themselves from being a narcissist. Can they? Can a tiger change his stripes if you're a narcissist?
Yes.
Really?
They can.
I would have thought no, but they can.
They can. A sociopath cannot.
Okay.
A narcissistic can. As it came to light of how trauma impacts the narcissist, if you focus on the trauma with the narcissist, there can be some healing. Does it take time? A lot. Does it take work? A lot. Is it possible? Sometimes.
Right.
They have to be willing to do the work. The problem with the narcissist is they don't recognize there's any work to be done.
Right. I'm perfect. Why would I need to change?
Exactly.
The people around me need to change.
Exactly.
So this would definitely be like with any drug. Like, I understand there's a problem. I want to change. First step is admitting there's a problem.
Absolutely. And when you can't admit it, you can't get past that.
So I would assume that a narcissist would have to hit rock bottom.
Yes.
Just like with any drug.
Just like with any drug, when the pain of the problem becomes worse than the pain of the solution, they can change.
This is my world right now where the pain of the problem of dealing with this person outweighs the pain of the solution. Because I know the solution is going to be rough.
Yeah.
And there's going to be aftermath and there's going to be damage control that I have to do. But I can no longer live in a world where this is happening. And it's a business relationship. So luckily, once that tie is severed, I just have to deal with the, oh, Elicia did this or this happened here. And hopefully enough people understand who he is and how every relationship has happened this way. But it's still, I just can't imagine somebody married to this because I've a daughter who was in a narcissistic relationship. And I was like, please do not have children with him because you will be tied to this man forever. Crazy. And they don't change. They don't think there's a problem. You're crazy.
You're crazy. You're the one.
Gosh. And I've seen like where they'll rile people up and then they look at you like, oh my God, what is wrong with you?
What is your problem?
Why are you acting this way?
Every time. Over and over. They can't see it. When you lack empathy, which all of us have that constant need to be validated, that constant need to feel connected and secure. It's human nature. We need that connection. When someone alters your safety of security with attachment, with fear and power, you can't form secure attachment with that person. There's not secure attachment. What that is chaos.
But I think that people live with it because they're so afraid to fix it.
And maybe they don't know how.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to talk about next.
How to deal with a narcissist. I love this. So next week, we're going to talk about how to deal or how to get past it. This is awesome. I'm loving this because I think all of us can find a person in our life or people are hearing this and going, oh my gosh, I was working for a narcissist, or oh my gosh, that guy I was dating, he wasn't just this, he was a full-blown narcissist. So you start seeing those red flags.
Oh my goodness. It's like
Great.
the light bulb goes off of where you finally realize you're not crazy,
Yeah.
that you were being abused. And that kind of is a hard concept to
Mhm.
grasp sometimes.
Oh, because so many of us think of abuse as I got punched or, he pulled my hair or whatever. You don't always attribute, and I think it's more not popular, but more people are aware that emotional abuse is sometimes worse than physical abuse, almost always worse than physical abuse.
It can have everlasting impact on you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to dive deeper on the subject. We'll stop there for now. A lot to absorb, a lot to take in. Next week, I'm going to keep you posted on life with my narcissist, and I will let you know how that's going. But thank you so much, because it's helpful to hear you say those things where I'm going, okay, I'm not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He really is what I think he is.
Mm-hmm.
And so preparing for a battle, but thank you.
Protect yourself. You matter.
Thank you so much. Well, Madi, thanks so much for always being an awesome host on Power of the Mind. You bring great content, and we're just excited to always have you in the studio.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in.